So I am going to do a little tutorial to show you how to make our Adventurer Weights kits, which is one of our most popular designs. So it comes in lots of different colours. So we've got 5 different colourways because we just couldn't choose which ones we loved the most. So I'm going to show you what you get in your box. So everything you need is in your box to get started, apart from a pair of scissors. But we sell those too, so these are our lovely embroidery scissors if you want to get a pair of those. So you get your instructions, which goes through what I'm just going to be taking you through today, and just the pattern in case you're unclear. And then you get, this is a backing disc, so this goes into the back of the hoop at the end when you've finished. I'll show you how we do that. This also, don't throw this away. Quite a few people throw this away thinking it's just packaging, but this, we cut it into a circle shape, and this goes in the back of your hoop as well to pad it out and give you this kind of really lovely quilted kind of like, it just makes it look so much nicer in the hoop once you've finished. And then you get your thread, your embroidery hoop, your fabric printed with the design, and your needle. Yours will be on a card. So the first thing we're going to do is put our fabric into the hoop. So you unscrew the metal screw so that the two hoops come apart, and then we're going to lay the smaller hoop on the table, and then we're going to place our fabric on the top. So this is a process of trying to get that design central in the hoop, but you're then going to place the bigger one over the top. And I feel like my design needs to be just a tiny bit lower, so I'm going to move it down. And I am pretty happy with how central that is. So once you're happy, then you tighten the screw. So we're going to try and go as tight as possible so that we can get a really tight work surface to go on. So you want it to be like tight like a drum, so that's not quite tight, and you can see that I'm just pulling it round on the edges as I tighten that screw. So it's a process of tightening the screw and then pulling it around at the edges so that you get a lovely tight work surface to stitch on. So the next thing we're going to do is thread our needle. So I have cut a length of thread which is about 40 to 50 centimeters long. You don't really want it any longer than that, otherwise you'll get in a tangle. And before we thread our needle, we're going to split the embroidery thread. So each big strand of embroidery thread is made up of 6 separate smaller strands. You can see there are separate strands there, and we want to stitch with 3. So I'm going to pull 3 strands apart, and I'm just going to slowly separate the 3 strands of thread. Now if you do this slowly, it shouldn't get tangled up. There are lots of different ways of separating embroidery thread. You can pull one strand away from the others, and then just keep separating one strand at a time, but I tend to find that just doing that slow pulling apart of the thread works. And then we're going to thread our needle. So the needles we provide have got quite a large eye, so they shouldn't be too difficult, but if you want to wet the cotton with a bit of lick, a bit of spit, sounds disgusting but it works, and then just thread it through. We're going to tie a knot at one end because I think that's the easiest way of getting people started with embroidery. So don't kind of double knot, don't pull that loose end down and knot both of them together. Lots of people have been taught to thread needles like that, but you'll get in a pickle and you'll be sewing it double and it won't look good. So now we're ready to start stitching. I have got a kit that's already been started here, but we're using a backstitch, which is one of the most simple stitches, and it gives us a lovely thin line. And I'm just going to show you, I'm going to start on this line here and show you how we do our back stitch. So we start with one stitch. It wants to be about 2 or 3 millimeters long, up through the fabric and back down again. So we've got our starting stitch. I'm going to come a bit closer, and then you're going to go up through the fabric about 2 or 3 millimeters away from your last stitch. Pull that nice and tight, but not too tight, and then you're going back down the hole that the last stitch went down to. So you're going back down where that thread is, and that just keeps your stitches, allows kind of there to be no gap between them and makes them just look neater. So then we're just following the line of the pattern, bring our needle up again and going back down that hole of the last stitch, hence back stitch. So I'll just do another one to show you. And so we just fill the design with these back stitches, so it's all, the drawing is all lines, so you're going to be going up here and then doing little stitches. So keeping your stitches nice and small will help you get the most definition out of your design. You'll be able to do all the kind of small curves and little corners and details, so just keep going like that. And then I'll show you just how we finish it off at the back once you've finished a length of thread. So once you finish a length of thread, we're just going to tie a knot at the back of the hoop. So yours will be shorter. Make sure you do leave enough thread to be able to knot it. Mine's obviously, you wouldn't leave this much, but I'm just doing this to show you. So tie your knot as close as you can, then hold your finger to keep the knot as close to the embroidery as possible. I normally do tie 2 knots just to be sure, keeping it as close to the fabric as possible, and then snip. So once you've finished your stitching, I'm going to show you how to put the back in. So first step is to trim around your hoop, so about 2-3 centimeters, so that you're not putting loads of excess fabric in the back of the hoop and making it bulky. So use your scissors to trim round, and then what we're going to do, we need to cut our wadding to the size of the back of the hoop. The easiest way to do that is to trim around the backing. So I've trimmed my wadding, so I can now place that in the back of the hoop. It goes underneath the fabric. Then you lay the excess fabric on the top, and then you get your backing disc, and that just slots in the back, and it just makes it look really lovely and finished. You don't get any kind of like creases from the fabric at the back, and it just finishes it off really nicely like that. And you actually do get ribbon included in this kit as well, so you can tie your ribbon in and finish off your lovely kit.